Cenk Uygur had an appearance on Piers Morgan Uncensored where he debated the idea of political violence, and Donald Trump. Dinesh D'Souza, Clay Travis, and Claudia Conway made up the rest of the panel, but like any other time when Cenk Uygur has to debate, right? Wingers, things get pretty heated pretty quickly. The clips we have today focus on Cenk Uygur going against Clay Travis and Piers Morgan himself. Things do get a bit spicy, so let's take a look.
I mean, Cenk, that would be my point, which is if Trump was going to do all the things you claim he's going to do, he'd have done them.
Yeah, but he did. It's you guys pervert reality in a way that is amazing. You pretend that he.
Can you stop saying you guys? Dinesh has just said that.
You just did it, Piers. How do I not include you when you just did it?
I literally said.
Can I answer the question?
You said that Trump wants to undo every part of the Constitution. I'm telling you that is completely insane for you to say that. Utterly nonsense.
You're insane.
He's never going to do it. He's not going to do it. You know it. I know it.
Okay, guys, let me just address the audience. Okay, these guys are trying to brainwash you into forgetting the things that Donald Trump actually did. He actually did January 6th. They actually did rush the Capitol. They did get inside the Capitol. People did die. He did say, let's terminate the Constitution when he didn't win. He did have a 3-hour meeting about installing martial law and rolling out the tanks. Everyone in his administration said they would resign immediately if he did that, which General Michael Flynn suggested. He actually, when his chief of staff said, your fans are looking to murder your vice president, he said he deserves it. So you guys are pretending he didn't do these monstrous things, which he already did.
Actually,
and
Cenk,
Piers, if you ask me why I'll never vote for Trump, because he hates America, and he already proved it. When he lost, he said, my government, I'm going to smash it to pieces if I can't have it, because he's a spoiled little baby. You're pretending like it didn't happen when it already happened.
Had you read or heard anything I wrote or said about January the 6th, you'd know exactly how I feel about it. But you haven't.
Why did you just pretend that it didn't happen?
No, I didn't.
You're like, well, he didn't do it. He did do it.
Well, the arguable point, which needs to be argued in a court of law, is whether he inspired an insurrection. Right? He vehemently denies that. You say he did. And it's an arguable point.
I know.
There was clearly a riot at the Capitol.
Don't see that giant riot. Don't see him not calling them off. He didn't call them off, Piers,
there was a shameful riot at the Capitol that was violent and should never have happened. And I've said that repeatedly. On that, I totally agree with you. Clay Travis.
Piers Morgan and Cenk Uygur have this sort of relationship where every time Piers has him on, Cenk Uygur calls him out for running defense for Donald Trump, and Piers adamantly rejects the notion that he's a right-winger, and he's not a MAGA supporter in the slightest. We always see him go out of his way to defend Trump, and a common trait of the right-wingers is a sort of revisionist history where January 6th was some sort of peaceful protest, and the storming of the Capitol is overblown. Cenk Uygur is definitely right. Donald Trump did try to overthrow an election.
But now you're back to the insurrectionists and supporting them.
Well, I'm going to come to Claudia in a moment.
And again and again.
Claudia, I'll come to you in a moment. Clay, part of the problem with talking to people like Cenk, I love having him. A lot of passion, a lot of verve and so on. But once he gets talking about Trump, he literally goes mad every single time. He sounds like
nuts.
He sounds
totally
like the very
nuts.
lunatic he's talking about.
America, Trump already tried
your name isn't Clay,
fake
Cenk.
electors.
Your name isn't Clay.
Okay, yeah, look, electors.
He sounds
like
a jilted girlfriend who's been cast aside. Look, let me say two things that are important here.
From who?
One, pre-COVID.
I don't like any of them.
Let's go to early February 2020. I appreciate that, actually, because there are a lot of awful, dumb politicians. We can agree on that. And in fact, there's way too many all over the world, especially in America. But let me start with this. February 2020. Before, in my opinion, COVID leaked from a Chinese lab, which, by the way, you weren't even allowed to say because the Biden administration tried to censor everybody on social media. And now suddenly everybody's aware that that's the most likely outcome.
Although Clay, hang on one sec. On that one point, the biggest study was released quite recently, which did seem to suggest that the most likely cause actually was from the wet market. Just for the record, that was the biggest independent study.
I completely disagree with that theory, but let's put that aside for a minute. February of 2020, the United States had 1.4-ish% inflation. We had 2.5% mortgages. Black, white, Asian, and Hispanic real wages were up. It is the case that the American economy had never been stronger since we whipped Piers's boys back in the good old Revolutionary War and became an independent country.
It's when our
never
king
had more
pulled the
people
chain
been
on us.
living in a better manner than in February of 2020. Second part, okay? So a lot of people are looking at this and saying this is an economics election. Trump had the greatest American economy of all time. Everybody was doing better. I think that's why so many people are yearning for that era in many ways. Second part of this, I agree with both of you. January 6th, when people riot, whether they're Republicans, Democrats, or independents, there should be consequences and they should be prosecuted. Here's the problem. For 6 months, BLM effectively took over much of American cities and virtually nothing happened to them. Kamala Harris, the tweet is still up, raised money for the people who were burning down Minneapolis to bail them out. She argued we needed to defund the police. Many people out there who are reasonable, that are not MAGA diehards, that are not Donald Trump absolute adherents, look at the way that our government responded to January 6th when Trump said, I want you to peacefully and patriotically go to the Capitol, which always gets left out. They look at the way the January 6th rioters have been treated, and they say, wait a minute, what about all the people who took over Seattle, Portland, Minneapolis, Chicago, New York City, Atlanta, all over the United States, cities burned, and almost no one took any consequences for it at all. What we have to get back to, in my opinion, in the United States, and what I believe the Biden administration has done really poorly, is they have weaponized the Department of Justice against anyone with a different political persuasion. Piers, you mentioned it. When Trump could have gone after Hillary Clinton, he said, I won the election, I'm not going to do it. When Biden got into office, he used Merrick Garland as his attack dog, and they tried to not only bankrupt Trump, they tried to put him in jail for the rest of his life. And in comparing him to Hitler, they allowed everybody free rein to believe that they would be a hero if they killed him. And oh, by the way, they don't even believe that, because every time somebody shoots at Donald Trump or tries to kill him, Kamala gets on the phone and Biden gets on the phone and they say, hey, are you okay? We deplore this. If you really thought Trump was Hitler, you should just say it in public. You know what? I'm sad that he missed, which 30% of Democrats actually are, even though they won't say it publicly. They don't just dislike this guy. They want him murdered in cold blood, assassinated, because they are crazier than anything Trump's ever said.
We've talked about the whataboutism and false equivalencies that the right-wingers hide behind when January 6th is brought up. Clay Travis brings up Black Lives Matter, and it's crazy to me that to them it's irrelevant if we're talking about January 6th and the arrests that went down of people who did violent acts. Because what about Black Lives Matter? Failing to acknowledge that there were 14,000 arrests made of Black Lives Matter protesters or rioters.
Claudia, you're in a...
Nobody's ever said that. Clay made that up. He totally made it up. Nobody's ever actually said that.
Let me come to Claudia.
30%, according to a poll of Democrats, 30% of Democrats said they wished that Donald Trump had been assassinated.
41% of Republicans said it's time for political violence. Republicans openly have been talking about Second Amendment remedies for people that they disagree with. They've been egging on violence. Donald Trump laughed about how Nancy Pelosi's husband was smashed in with a hammer. So the right wing loves violence. And the minute that it touches Donald Trump, you guys go, oh my God, it turns out violence is bad.
Killed Trump twice in the last 2 months.
Let me ask Cenk. I thought Clay raised a very good point there about the utter hypocrisy between the Democrat view of January 6th and the Democrat view of the BLM riots. Either you oppose rioting full stop or you don't. And the way that the rioters for BLM throughout that period...
I don't know of anyone personally on the left that supported rioting and looting of businesses. Not to say that there weren't any, but there surely couldn't have been enough to attribute that to left-wingers as a whole. And I do think it is fair to condemn rioting and looting as a whole. However, right-wingers take any form of protesting as a personal affront, and we see that whether it's peaceful or not, kneeling athletes were as much of a disgrace to them as the violent protesters. And this strong opposition only applies to causes that they don't agree with.
Were treated, compared to the January 6th rioters, was clearly, demonstrably different, wasn't it? So why? My question is why?
No,
why were they treated differently?
Okay, no, let me explain a couple of things. So first of all, yeah, I agree that we need to be absolutely consistent. So sometimes people will lump in two different groups of people on January 6th. There's the people who went and, the much larger crowd that went and spoke, that watched Donald Trump speak on January 6th. Most of those people did not go to riot at the Capitol. Then there's the people who rioted. So whenever it reaches the people who just listened to the speech, I go, whoa, 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 whoa. No, they just showed up to listen to his speech. They didn't do anything wrong. But when you go and you smash into the Capitol looking to murder Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi, obviously you've done something massively wrong. Now, when it comes to the BLM situation, the original protests were like the original people listening to Donald Trump. They came out because they were deeply concerned about the injustice against African Americans in this country, and they were right. Then at some point, a smaller group of people committed violence. Police went to go arrest those people, and they should. Of course they should. The one problem that I thought persisted after that initial outburst was some parts of like Portland and Seattle were taken over, and the police let them do that for some period of time, and that was nuts. And so that's when I started saying, guys, this is not progressive. This is not the right way to go. We're not for lawlessness. And then, of course, Trump did it in more spectacular fashion.
Let me bring Claudia in.
So the full episode is about an hour long. You'll be able to find it on Piers Morgan's channel. I love this exchange. Cenk had a few points about the people that just went to the rally on January 6th being lumped in with the people who were getting violent, and you could probably chalk it up as those people being misguided for being there listening to a speech and protesting peacefully with signs. But that's their right to do that as Americans. The people that went into the buildings and vandalized property and everything else is where that universal line can be drawn. And I think it is sensible that that same scrutiny is brought onto BLM when it's in an appropriate conversation and not pushed forward as a sort of gotcha, what about Trump card? No pun intended. But what do you think? Do you agree with Cenk Uygur, or do you agree with Clay Travis and Piers Morgan? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.